Welcome back, team. We are in for a big one. This is part two of my exploration on curl. So, if you remember last time, we spent some time playing around with curl and finding really the 90% of curl that will get us to where we need to be for being able to use it. So, things like setting up the request, adding some headers for content types, and being able to send data. That's where we left off. We also added it all to a makefile to start that automation process. And I want to keep doing that today, but from the angle of GraphQL. Now, if you've never heard of GraphQL, it is pretty solid and it's becoming a very popular way to do endpoints because it puts the power of the request in the consumer's hands. So if it's your front end or another back end that gets data from somewhere, whatever that is, the power lies in the consumer. And it works kind of like this. This is a little bit down the page, but you ask for what you need and you get exactly that. So if you imagine going into a restaurant and ordering a hamburger and just saying, give me a hamburger, you get the hamburger, you open it up, then maybe there's pickles on it, right? You didn't really want pickles, but because you didn't say anything, they still put the pickles on, right? Whereas, and that's kind of like REST. You get it all. You get everything that they want you to have. Whereas with GraphQL, you decide what you want. So in that case, you would go in and you would say, I want everything except the pickles. And you would get exactly that, okay? So to explore this a little bit, I'm going to use this GraphQL endpoint. This is countries.trevorblades.com. And whoever you are, Trevor, thank you for doing it, putting it all together. But really awesome endpoint where you can set up a GraphQL query and get that data back. And you can play around with it, okay? There's a lot more to it than this, but again, this video isn't about learning GraphQL. It's about learning curl. So I've already gone and filled this in, and here's what it looks like. Okay, I have a query, and I'm passing in some variable data. That data comes from down here. Okay, these variables are JSON by default, whereas the query is not. It's actually a string. Okay, but it's formatted nice to make it look pretty. Now inside of here, I have three different queries going on. So I have continents, country with that code, a specific country, and countries. Okay. You'll notice that I also have country data used in a few spots, right? That is a fragment down here. So down, I've gone and created this fragment. A fragment is like a mix-in or a sub-function where you can put some information and reuse it over and over and over again, okay? And that country data looks like this. It's got the name, the code, the capital, a little emoji flag. You can see that over here with Angola, right? The language in a few different things. So we get Portuguese in English and Portuguese in Portuguese, okay? So helpful stuff, whether it's right to left, and then some commented stuff. So I could actually uncomment these, fire this request, and get a little bit of extra data. There's the currencies, right? Some fun stuff. This isn't really useful. What I'm more interested in is the comments, and we'll see why later, okay? But this is where we're starting, okay? We have this query, and we can fire it off. We can comment some of these out so that now we just have country and countries, right? We could go and change this to, say, China and get Chinese data, okay? Very, very fast, very efficient. And then all the way through, we can play around with this to our heart's content. But again, we're here for curl. So let's go set that up, okay? I'm going to go back to here. Now, none of the stuff that we've used here matters. So if you want to start out fresh, you absolutely can. All you need to do is set up some sort of a file to work with, And then we're going to switch over to another file where we're going to automate everything. Okay. We're going to add in some really nice features. Down at the bottom of this file, again, or right at the top if it's brand new, you're going to start your curl script. And it looks pretty much like our past curl scripts. So we have curl, we have our method. Interesting thing about GraphQL is that we always send post. Now you can send other ones, okay? If your backend team or whoever set up your GraphQL setup changes it, then you use that. But every project that I've worked on, it's been post. So this one is no different. And that URL, where is the URL coming from? Well, it is coming from right here. It's the exact same URL that shows this interface, okay? And you are going to want to use this interface, but once you get it, you can just copy and paste out of here. So we're going to see a lot of that, okay? So here's the URL. We're going to do that / to a new line and get our header. What is our header? Well, it's content type application JSON. Copying, pasting for the win, done, okay? And then we have our data. And our data is JSON, okay? We absolutely want that, so it needs to be in single quotes. And those single quotes are going to trip us up a little bit later on. You're going to see how, and we're going to find ways to work around that because we're going to do a shell script. And shell scripts, they have different meanings between single quotes and double quotes. We'll see that in a bit. But we need this to be single quotes so that it can be JSON inside because it uses double quotes here, okay? This, we need two pieces of information. We need the query, okay? And again, I hinted at this, but the query is a string. That is your one absolute required piece of information. You're always going to send a query. But as part of this, we're also going to send an optional variables, okay? Just like this. And that variables is going to be another JSON object. So this is the shape of it. This is what we're doing, okay? Now that variables bit is really easy. It's actually just right here. We only have the one thing. We can paste it in. Done, okay? Really fast. The other part takes a little bit of work. So I'm going to grab all of this, including the comments, copy it, and give myself some room to work and paste it in. Step 1, remove the comments. We're going to come back to those, but if we leave them in, they will cause problems. And that's because the shell also uses the number sign for comments. So it will assume that everything after a certain point is commented out, breaking your query, breaking the ability for this to work. So you need to delete those. And we'll see that a bit later on too, okay? Right here, all of this good stuff, we can grab it, select it all, and get rid of all of our indents. They aren't really helping, and they don't really mean anything because this is a string, okay? As long as it has any kind of white space, you're in good shape. Now, Command-Shift-L gives me multiple cursors for every single line. And then Command left gets me to the start of the string. So now everything has a cursor at the very start. And what I can do is I can backspace and space, okay? From there, my query is done. I can copy this or cut it because I'm not going to be using it this way anymore. Paste it right in, and it's done. This is the shape of our query every single time. We're going to add in that query string, and then if we need variables, we're going to pass those into, okay? We can actually test this by grabbing this right here, go into my handy dandy terminal where I was doing stuff before, and paste it in, okay? And we get all of that data. Now there's a ton of it. So the important part here is that we have it. Again, we could funnel it through the JQ command or something like that to pretty it up. But for us today, we only need to know that it works. Okay? What you do after is your business. Let's move on. From here, we want to start scripting and automating this a little bit. Okay. So back over to the code. We can save this. We're going to come back to it. We don't need this make file anymore. We can close it for the moment. And I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to call this API. You can call it anything. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to call it API. Okay. Inside of there, I'm going to create a shell script. It's going to be user without the E, bin, env, add a space, and then type bash. That tells it that we're writing a shell script. You might have noticed that my editor changed to shell script, and I'm getting some code highlighting here, right? So everything is working really, really well. Now that we have a file, my voice just cracked a little there. That was very interesting. But now that we have a file to work with, we are going to template some things out, okay? So we're going to add endpoint like this, and it's going to be a string. And then we're going to add action, okay? Action is what we did in our make file before. So all of these help, products get, products, product post. This is our action, okay? In make, we called it a target, but over in our script, we're going to call it an action, okay? That's going to come off of argument 1, just like this, and we're good. Now you can quote this if you want, whoops, jumping around, there it is, to get a little bit of safety in there. This is for if you had something right next to it, but as a matter of practice, we should probably do it just to be on the safe side, okay? From here, I'm going to add a whole bunch of comments, just like this. And below it, I'm going to type out utilities, okay? So this is where all of our utilities are going to go. And then right below that, another section for our requests, okay? And right below that, we're going to do our main. Now, we don't actually have anything called main. This is just our main execution code. So we're going to have some functions in here, some functions in here, and then down below, it is going to run our code, okay? And we can start there. So the first thing that we need to do is test if we've sent an action, because we could just run API, okay? And if we do that, then we don't actually get anything back because it won't know what to do. So if there is no action, then we need to send an error message. And that looks like this. We use if, add some spaces. These spaces are very important, okay? If you don't do that, if you just, whoops, my cursor jumped around. If you were just to type in here, it will toss errors and be kind of miserable. You always need those spaces, okay? Checking for null values, just like this. We're gonna go and get $action, it's capitalized. It should have been a dollar, my bad. Curly brackets for the win, okay? Lots of curly brackets. Then we do something, okay? Otherwise, we end it. And this is really interesting. So if backwards is the way that you end an if statement in Bash. I always find that curious. You'll see that a couple times. But for now, echo, okay? And we're going to echo command not found, right? Sorry, let's be a little bit more positive. Command is required. That's better. Good enough for now, okay? Exit, come on, learn to type. Exit 2, okay? An exit status of 2 tells the system, tells the next command that we didn't quite use this command right. This is a user error. At least that's my understanding of it. So exit 2. Down here, if everything works, then we shift. And what this is doing is it is taking whatever our action is and getting rid of it from the argument array. So if we pass in multiple pieces of multiple arguments, then it'll use the first and get rid of the rest. Okay? Very cool stuff. Moving on. Down here, we are going to actually do stuff. So case, again, $action, just like this. Oh, why can't I quote stuff right? That's making mistakes, but that's okay. So case of action in, okay? And then we end the case. How do we end the case? Well, if phi case exec, interesting times, okay? It's not always that way, but a lot of the time it is. So there it is, okay? So inside of this case block, we need a default, okay? And our default is going to be like this. It is an asterisk followed by a parentheses. And the asterisk is a catch-all, okay? From there, we add in some more of this. So we can copy it down, paste it, make sure that our alignment is right. And right here, $action not found, okay? Wrap it up just to be safe. And because I like it this way, I'm going to put this in single quotes. Now, this has to be in double quotes. If it wasn't, it wouldn't register this. We can see that right here. If I take this out and just put single quotes, it goes green, which represents a string, at least in my code highlighting, okay? The double quotes registered as something completely different. So it sees the string part, but it also sees the variable. And that is very important. If you're using single quotes out here, it'll probably fail. But at this point, we can go and change this, make it executable. So we go chmod plus x API, just like this. And now we can go /API, and it'll say command is required. Or if we do API anything right now, that command is not found, okay? This is where we start. So this is good times. Now, we do want to start adding some commands. We already have that right over here. We're going to copy this and start using it inside of our requests. So first we have country. We should actually go query country just to keep things nice and clean. And we paste that in, okay? This can change because we actually have it up above. Oh, you know what? We don't. Let's go and cut that out and paste it inside of here, okay? So we have it. Down below, we can use that again. So $endpoint. Excellent. Good shape, okay? Everything else, we need to clean some stuff out. But before we do that, I don't want to be copy and pasting from the file several times, so I'm going to duplicate this twice, okay? Once for countries, like this, and once for continents, okay? Excellent. Now we can go and clean this out. So right here, we have that working query. We don't need continents. We can get rid of this. And we go all the way to country, back it out. Excellent. Countries, we get rid of that. Leave this last curly brace. We want that before the fragment, okay? Don't delete that part, otherwise it won't work. And now we just have country with some data and the fragment, which has all of our useful information, okay? We're still passing in variables, which is really nice. Down here, this is countries. So technically we can get rid of this bit and we can get rid of this line. And then we can go in here, continent, all the way to countries, just like this, space it out. And there is a random comma on the end now because we got rid of the variables. So this is the whole query. Again, query is the only required field for this to work, okay? If you don't send a query, what is GraphQL? Doesn't make any sense. So we only need query. We're going to do the same thing down here for continents. So we get rid of this bit. We clean out this bit. We have the continents. We go to country and delete all the way to right here, leaving that final curly bracket before fragment. Excellent. Okay. All done. Nope. Almost forgot that end comma. Would have thrown errors. I would have spent hours trying to debug it on video. Bad times. There it is. Okay. Now we need to use it because just creating these functions doesn't mean that they'll be called. We need this. We need to be inside of our case statement. So we go and do that with country and followed up by a query country, just like this, and the double semicolon breaks out of case statements. So same thing as above, we duplicate this 2 more times, country to countries, okay, and country to continents, okay. At this point, it should work. Let's go try it, okay. Back here, I did save, right? Yeah. We can go /API country, and we get China, okay? Exactly what we wanted. We go countries, and we get all of the country data. Same thing with continents, okay? Come on, there we go. Brilliant, okay? It's all working. We can do some better stuff here. At this point, I could just end the video right here, right? It's working. You could go and build on it, learn some more stuff. I want to leave you in the best possible shape, so we're going to work a little bit more, okay? First thing we want to do is add some comments. So right here, get a single country. Come on, spell it right. There it is. Get all countries. Excellent. Get all continents. Brilliant. Okay. We're going to use this just like we did in the makefile where we had these comments. We're going to do the same thing. In fact, we're going to use kind of the same thing, but I don't want to copy and paste from here because maybe you're watching it without watching the first one or without building out the first one. Okay. So I want to show you where to get that command really fast. We're going to start up here and create our help block, okay? I'm not going to call it help. Instead, I'm going to call it print usage, okay? Just like this. It would help if I could type. There it is. And inside of here, we're going to do pretty much what that string said. So adding some comments, we are going to get this file. So we're going to get the contents of API, okay? And then we are going to get our comments from this file. We're going to trim all of the space because there's right here a little bit of space, and down here there is a little bit of space as well. So we need to clean that out, okay? Then we are going to sort, and then finally we are going to output, okay? And most of this comes from another place. So back to the browser, hitting tab, self-documenting makefile, very first one, very handy. And hopefully when you watch this, the very first result as well from marmalab.com. Excellent. We scroll down, we copy all of this, not the @ sign, okay? Leave that alone, but copy everything else. Excellent. Right here. So I'm going to paste that in just so that we can grab stuff from it, okay? Now, getting this file is really easy. Just like where we have $1 up here, we can use $0 to get the file. Now we want the contents of the file, so we use cat for that, okay? If you want, you can double quote this and work this bit of magic. No problem, okay? That still works. Then we pass that into getting our comments. And for that, we are going to use this grep command. Everything to right about here, okay? So we go and get that, paste it in, make some space, and this is absolutely the wrong thing that we want. We want a different regular expression. So let's go scroll way down to here and just copy out this part. So parentheses, space, number sign, space, okay? Copy it, bring it all the way back up, hit it, and a little bit of funkiness with the parentheses, so we need to escape it, okay? But we should be able to run this. Let's give it a try, /API. Oh, you know what? I haven't developed the help command yet, have I? So Let's go do that so that we can see the magic happen. Right here, help. And below it, we're going to print usage, okay? And then escape, okay? Since we're here, we may as well add a little bit more. Print this help block. Excellent, okay? Let's go do it. Help. There it is. We have a little bit of extra because we haven't done anything with these spaces. These spaces are a little bit dangerous this way, so let's go clean that up. Right up here, we can set this to a space. In fact, any number of spaces. It just has to be some kind of a space character, okay? And any number of spaces here. Now if we run that, it's better. And we could just leave it like this. Like, does it look bad? No. Could it look cleaner? Absolutely. Okay, let's go and do that. So down here, we're going to use awk, our first run of awk. Sorry, I need to pipe this in. So our first run of awk is going to be this. Okay, we have our main run block, and we are going to compare $1 equals $1. I did that wrong. It should be single quotes. I can tell because the coloring on this is wrong. So I'm going to grab this, cut it out, back it out, use single quotes. Excellent. Okay. Then there's a semicolon on this and 1. That's it. That's all we need for trim. So now if we go back, you will see that it is closer to the edge. Okay. We don't have this extra space here that we did before. Excellent. Okay. So another pipe. We drop down, sort. That one's pretty straightforward. It's just sort. And the final one is this last awk block. Okay, so copy it, paste it right in, but we do need to change a few things. The double $sign goes away, and this changes to this. Okay, so we go and get the grep regular expression, paste it into the field separator. Excellent. Okay. This is not going to work. And the reason that it's not going to work is because awk doesn't really like this / space character. So let's just go and add a space here. But we are going to leave the plus sign. Okay. That stays. At this point, I should be able to save it and run it. And now it looks very similar to what we had in the make video. Okay. Where things are pretty printed. We get some instructions. And we can use this everywhere. Because it's a function, we can use it everywhere. So we can get rid of this comment. We can copy this, go all the way down to command is required, and type in for a list of available commands, run in single quotes, still inside the double, okay, $0. So that's going to be, it's going to be whatever we named our file, $0. If we decide to rename our file, it's still going to work. $0 help, okay? Because we're good citizens, we're going to add in some equal signs. I'm not going to bore you by trying to line this up, but there it is, and print usage, okay? And then I can go and copy this whole thing, bring it right down to my default here, paste it underneath. Whoops, it's accidentally opening stuff. That's weird. And clean this up. So I want this to be right here. Excellent. Okay. If this works, it means that if I mistype something, I'm going to get help. And if I don't include an action, I'm going to get help. This is being a good citizen. Okay. This means that right here, whoops, like this, right? It's not found, but you can either run help or you can just check out one of these commands, okay? And if I don't include one at all, then I get the same thing. It's a little bit of a different error, but I get the same thing, which is awesome. At this point, I want to refine our script. We're doing so well right now, but there's a lot of duplicate code, especially in our requests, because every request is a post with the endpoint, with the application JSON, with the data, with this query, the string changes, but this query name doesn't. This variable name doesn't. Okay, and in fact, we don't include the variables at all in the bottom ones. But so much duplicate code. I want to make this better. I'm going to copy this, bring it up, and put it underneath our last utility. I'm going to call this one send query. Okay. So just like this, you'll notice that we don't really put arguments in the blocks. It's just a way of telling it that it's a function. I don't even know if you can, but there it is. Okay. Now, to start this off, we are just going to test one little thing, because this is where our double quotes kind of play out. Okay. Just like up here with the $1, I could in fact go $1. Okay. And maybe I put it in here, but you'll notice again, just like I hinted at before, if it's green, it's not right. It's not interpreting our variables. And that's because this is a single quote block. Okay. But we need it to be a single quote block. Otherwise we are escaping everything like crazy and doing a bunch of extra work. We want it to stay a single quote block. Okay. So the secret is to wrap this in single quotes and then double quotes. Okay. And that seems like a hot mess, but let me explain what we're doing here. So the single quote is here and there's a single quote here, which means that effectively we've made 3 strings. Okay. We have this string here, then the variable, then down here, the last string. Okay. That's kind of what we're doing here. But because we put them all together, they end up getting kind of smashed into a single thing for this data attribute. Okay. Which means that we can use this. We can test it out, see what happens. Let's give it a go. So down here, I'm going to grab query. Did I get it right? Yes. I don't want the query property name. I just want the data, okay, the string. So cut that out and take it. Actually, see, I need a couple things. So send query and paste it in, and then go back and get this bit, cut it. Now we can delete all of this stuff. Add a space. This is how they do it. Okay. Now this is going to be wrong. Our variables block, it needs to be in single quotes because it's JSON. Okay. That's easy. And our query is also wrong. And again, the syntax highlighting is the clue here. Because it's a string, everything should be green now. But we are getting these blue these blue patches, which tells us that our shell script is trying to interpret this as a variable. We do not want that. That is a bad time. Okay. So instead we should grab this string again all the way to the end, cut it out, and use single quotes. And now you'll notice that everything is green in here, at least for mine, whatever your color highlighting is. That's what you're going to get. But we should be able to run this. We aren't really using the variables in here, but everything else should work. Let's give it a try really fast. In fact, just to change it up, I'm going to make this CA, just so that we know that things are working. Okay. So right here, country, fire it, and we get Canada. Excellent. With the flag and everything. Okay. Good. Now we need to figure out how to use this variable data. Okay. And if you're looking at this, I'm going to make it one line just so that it's a little bit easier on the eyes. Okay. Do you have to do this? Absolutely not. But it'll look a little bit nicer later on. Okay. Because what we're doing is we are stealing this block. Okay. We don't want it in there. We're going to do something else. I'll paste it up here, comment it out. And what we're going to do is we are going to start with a variable. Now for shell scripts, we use local to make sure that it's contained to just this function. Okay. And then inside of local, we will set vars. to an empty string. We can go and use that right down here, okay? And again, we need to break free of our syntax. We can't just write $vars in here, okay? It's not going to work. Evidenced by the fact that it's green in my code editor, okay? So one more time, just like this, single quotes, double quotes, and we are done. So we have a bunch of strings that are being jammed together to create this final thing, okay? Now, before we use that, we can actually test that. If we go to our countries, we can grab everything inside of here, cut it out, delete this, send query, okay? And it's going to be single quotes, paste in that string, and same thing with continents. So we can grab that, get rid of the curl script, send query. Oh, I forgot the single quotes. See, you need those. Otherwise, it will read it differently. It'll read each of these things as its own argument, which is wrong, okay? We can test it. Let's go do that. So right here, it is countries, and we still get all of our data, okay? So this is good. We just need to figure out that argument, okay? And that argument is another if statement. So if, before the last if we used, tested for a null value. -c is a null value. This time we want to test if it exists, and we do that with -n, okay? -n lets us get the job done, so we can totally do, remember to add that space, okay? And this will be $2. Excellent. So if there's a second variable, then we're going to use it, okay? Semicolon, then the 5 for the win, sorry, and we go vars equals double quotes or single quotes. Well, it really needs to be single quotes because we have all of this, don't we? So we cut it out. Did I delete the vars? That's silly of me. Okay. Single quotes, paste it. Excellent. Similar thing where we get rid of this and we go $2, sorry, 2 like this. But because of how this works, we need to single quotes, double quotes. It is a hot mess of quote marks, but once you write this once, you probably don't need to write it that much again. So getting all that right is kind of a one-time pain, okay? Now again, we have 3 strings. We have the first one with some string stuff. We have the variable in double quotes, and then we have this empty one, okay? And technically, we can get rid of the empty one. That's not doing us any favors, okay? So we got rid of the empty one, cleaning up our code just a little bit. Now, if we go and do country, you'll remember last time it was Canada. This time it is back to China, okay? So good shape, really, really good shape here. Ooh, it's a lot, right? It's a lot, but we still have a few steps left to go. For instance, these query strings don't belong here, okay? Every project that I've ever worked on for GraphQL, we end up breaking the files out to their own thing, breaking the queries out to their own files. So I'm going to do that right now. Over here, you can create a new folder and call it GraphQL, okay? So right there, and inside of there, I'm going to create a bunch of files, okay? So a new file for countries.graphql and a new file for countries.graphql. There it is. Another one for continents. Why did I spell it wrong? I did. Continents.graphql. Too many letters. There it is. And one more time, we're going to do a folder now called fragments. And this is where that fragment is going to live. So I always like to break them out. Maybe your project is different. Maybe you don't have to do this, but it will work the same anyway. Okay. So new file, country data dot GraphQL. Excellent. Okay. I am not going to copy these from API because they are already flattened out and that feels like a hot mess to me. So let's go and grab them from over here. We already have it. Copy it, paste it back. Let's start with the fragment. Okay. The fragment is all of this. We can cut this away and the fragment is done. Okay. Country, paste it in. We can get rid of countries and continents. Where is it here? Done. Save. Okay. It is reformatting things a little bit. That's kind of how it goes. In fact, we should give this a name. So let's name it country, just so that it's got a unique name to it. Okay. Paste it in. This is countries. So we can get rid of everything right here. Done. We can get rid of the variable and give it a name. Excellent. Okay. Last one. Here we go. Countries, gone. Okay. This one here, get rid of it. Continents, yes. Excellent. So now we have these files. Normally they would already exist in your project, or you would be building them up to use in your project. At least that's been my experience. So there's a good chance that if you're doing GraphQL and watching this video, you already have these set up. So you just need to use them. Okay. And my advice here is to close these ones. Let's get rid of those. And over here, we are still going to pass in a string to send query because it's working. Why would we change that? Okay. So right above it, we will add prepare query. And this is going to take in our files. Okay. So first things first, we're going to get contents of files. Then we are going to remove comments and one line everything. Okay. Just like we did when we did it manually. We copy and pasted it into a file. We got rid of the comments and we one-lined everything. Okay. So same thing, we're going to cat everything. So $&, whatever we pass in here, we're just going to do it. And you'll notice that I did not quote this. When you're working with file paths, my advice is don't quote it because there might be some brace expansion. You'll see that in a second, or something else in play like globs. And if you wrap it in quotes, those expansions won't happen. Okay. So when we're dealing with cat, we don't usually wrap this in quotes unless it's safe. We only had the one here, so we're pretty safe there. But because we might be passing in who knows how many files to this query, leave it so it can do its own thing. Okay. Pipe it down. We're going to wrap it in sed. Sed has a really helpful delete command. It doesn't actually delete from the files, but it deletes from whatever you pass into it. Okay. We're going to pass in a regular expression that is any sort of space followed by a number. Okay. Did I need to escape that? I might have forgotten. Yes, I did. Okay. I always forget. And then one more pipe just to send it down the line. And we send it through, I call it zargs. Maybe you call it xargs. Maybe there's a different pronunciation, but using this command, we can take all of the arguments from here and pass them into whatever command we want. So we could do a grep. Okay, if we were doing, say, a cat or a find and we wanted to search inside of those files, well, now we can. Okay, I guess not a cat, but definitely a find. That's usually where you'll see this command used. By default, it uses echo. Okay, and because that's the default, we can leave it off. So at this point, we get the files, we get the contents of the files, we remove the comments, and we flatten it. Okay, let's use it. Down here, send query. We're going to get rid of this entire thing. Do not get rid of your variables. You still need those. And here now we want double quotes, okay? Because we are going to run a subcommand, and that looks like a dollar parentheses, okay? But whatever comes out of this subcommand, we want it to be treated as a string. And so that should be in double quotes, okay? Prepare query. That is our command, and we pass in our files, of which there are two. There's country and country data, okay? So it's GraphQL / country.graphql, just like this, and a space, GraphQL / fragments / country data.graphql, GraphQL, just like this. That should do it. So now if I go back to here and I trigger country, I still get it, okay? I can simplify this because these are all kind of in here. Again, that brace expansion, right? So after country and before the F in fragments, okay? Delete it and add a comma. And then from country to country data, wrap that in brackets, okay? In curly brackets. And this will allow that to expand out. Again, I have not wrapped quotes around any of this. Don't do that. If you're working with file paths, don't wrap them in quotes. It's a bad time, okay? Right here, it works, okay? Let's take this and use it here, okay? So we're gonna paste it in. I'm gonna change this to countries and get rid of this one. Paste it in, change this to continents, okay? Excellent. So now everything should just work. I should be able to get countries. It does. Where is somewhere up here? Continents. All is good. Okay. We're in such good shape. The video is getting, well, pretty long, but I want to leave you with one last thing. Okay. We could go and add auth in here. So now that we have this one command, we could set up how to pass in auth and the env file. I'll leave that to you for a little bit of experimentation. Lots of Google searching, lots of results in there for that. Very easy stuff. But what I want to leave you with is what's called a dry run. And we kind of already had that in the make file. If we left the ampersand off, so I didn't use the ampersand on this one, which means that it would output this command before running it, okay? You'll remember the at symbol, not the ampersand. when we add the at symbol here, it kind of silences this output and only outputs the result. But if we leave that at symbol off, then it will output the script that it is going to run and its output, which means that you could copy and paste the script to, say, a bug report if it's not working. I want to be able to do that in the API as well. So here is what we're going to do, okay? We're going to go way up here and add some stuff. We need to change this action a little bit, okay? Instead, we are going to set it up as an empty string because we are going to fill it later. And then here, we'll add in dry and set it equal to 0, okay? Just some kind of falsy value. Now, since we have that, we are going to test how many arguments we have. Right now, as an example, if I go and get my country and go -- dry, this won't actually do anything, right? I can pass in any additional arguments I want, and it's not going to do anything because we aren't using it. But we want to find if dry exists. If it exists here or if it exists before country, we want to find it, okay? The quickest way to do that is with a while statement. So again, we're going to set up our comparison, add some spaces, and set $1, sorry, not $1. We're going to set $number, okay? We're going to get the number of arguments. The number of arguments. And we're going to make sure that it is greater than 0, okay? At this point, we do something, okay? And this one kind of goes against the norm that we were talking about down below. We start with do and we end with done. Okay, so it's not odd like the other things. But here we are. Now, if $1, come on, $1 equals dash dash dry. Okay. Remember to add that space. Why? I thought I had added that, but that's okay. Then we do something. Else we do something else. And we end it with the reverse if, phi, okay? Or phi, however you want to pronounce that. So while it's here, we're going to set dry equal to 1, okay? That's our control. And then if it's not that, then we're going to assume that we're sending an action, okay? We could do more work with this. We could set up all kind of opt-args and stuff like that. But for this script, we don't need anything too fancy. So I'm just going to set action equal to $1, okay? And again, cleaning it up just so it's nice and organized. Excellent. We could also do that here. Shouldn't matter too much. Perfect. Okay. So everything should still work. We should still get an action. We haven't done anything with dry yet, but we are. Come on. Is it going to work? Oh, you know what? I forgot. Ha! See? Jumped ahead. The final bit of this is shift, right? We need to shift off the thing. So if it comes across country, it wants to add that to action and then shift it down. Because we aren't reducing our arguments, it's just running on a loop, which doesn't help us. Okay, it never exits the while statement. So we need shift until we get to 0. And then it breaks and we move down, all the way down to this. Because we shift up above, we don't need this shift statement. We can get rid of that. But now it works, okay? So that was my bad. I forgot this shift. We're always shifting off while we are in a while loop so that we can get down to 0, okay? From here, we need our execute function. And the execute function tests for dry. So if $dry, try that again with a $sign. There it is. $dry equals 1, then we're going to do stuff, right? Oh, jumping around, sorry. Then do stuff, okay? Otherwise, do something else. So again, else and phi, just like this. We go in and we echo whatever $ampersand is. Come on, $ampersand. Brilliant, okay? If it's not dry, if we're just executing, then we run it, okay? Again, if you want, you can put these in curly brackets just to keep them all kinds of safe. Not a problem. Execute. Let's use it. Down here, right in front of this, just like this. So execute is going to take this thing and either run it or echo it, okay? Let's try it. So it's dry, and we get our curl script, okay? It's not quite right. We are going to clean up some of the quotes in a second here, but we did that. Now, if I get rid of dry, I execute the actual command and I get the result. So now we have two options here, right? We can get the script that we want to run, add it to our bug reports. Backend developers will love you for this because they can test against it. Or we can just run it, okay? Now, the quotes are all kind of messed up, okay? And we need to fix that. So let's go and do that really fast, and then we will wrap this up. For that, I need another local variable. It's going to be called single quotes. And we will set it to, like this, set it to an empty string, okay? Now, if it's dry, so we can actually copy some of this right down here, paste it in, before the execute curl script. So if dry is 1, then we're going to do stuff. And that stuff is going to be single quotes equal to this, okay? A single quote. Because we've used single quotes everywhere, we're in good shape to use this. And again, we're going to use the same technique that we did right here. So we're going to smash it together right out in front by going double quotes, okay? And then dollar brackets single quote, okay? Single quotes, single quote, single quote. Probably could have done single quote, couldn't I? Here we go. Let's fix that fast. Single quote, okay? And now copy that. We can close this out, paste it on the end, paste it here, and we are in good shape, okay? Now if I run that dry command, everything should still work if we just fire the command itself. But if I add dry, I get this. And I should actually be able to take this command, copy it, and feed it right back in to get the data. So really good shape here, right? Everything is just working. If I found that my command wasn't working and everything seemed right, I could run that command as a dry command, and to prove the point, I'm going to put dry on this side, okay, and run it. And then I could send that to pb copy right into the pasteboard. Let's go and get a new one, paste it, clean it up, right? Just like this. And everything just works, okay? So nice and neat. It's all nice and tidy. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could go all the way over here and do this stuff, really make it nice and neat, however you want. But at this point, you can copy and paste this into a bug report, and the backend team will come and say, oh, you didn't add auth because we didn't cover that, right? I talked about that. We skipped it just to keep this from going too much longer, okay? But here it is. So let's review really fast, okay? We started with this GraphQL query, and I just made it up ahead of time. It could be anything. But from there, I took that and collapsed it down to a request. And our request structure for GraphQL is always going to be the same. It's going to be post, unless your backend team says you otherwise, tells you otherwise. It's going to be post. And then you're going to have the URL. You're going to be sending JSON data, and it's going to be of this structure with a query and optional variables, okay? The query is going to be a string. The variables is going to be more JSON data, but this is the nature of it. And then we went and took that into a script where we started out with some stuff and some really basic stuff where we send in an action and we fire a query. So if I wanted to create a new one, I just go in here and say query languages. I think that's over here if I remember correctly, right here, right? Languages. So I could do that and then set up a thing down here with a comment, and it all just works, okay? We also set up some nice help. So if we don't send an action, if the actions are 0, then we send through help. We're trying to be good citizens. If we don't send anything, right, or if we mistype, then we send through help. We're doing that. And then we kind of reduced it down. We started with 3 curl scripts and reduced it down to a single reusable block, right, a reusable function. Then we decided to use the files. We did some work there, right? And then finally we added a dry run, which is just awesome. I love this. This is, I love using it. It's very simple to me, right? It feels like a lot of code, but what did we do? Like for 103 lines of code, and most of those being this stuff, right? We've created a pretty robust system that we can build into. Again, next steps for you, some sort of an auth in here, right? So you want to send that extra dash H with the authorization, right? Authentication, you can do that. But at this point, it works. And I hope you can see that curl combined with a little bit of scripting can make your life really easy, because these GraphQL files, they already exist. They're already in your project if you're using GraphQL. Or they are available somewhere where you can get to them, okay? So you can peel them out using a little bit of code and set it all up, okay? And then from there, you can commit this API file and anybody can use it. All they need is a terminal with bash of all things, okay? We did not use any special commands in here. I mean, if you wanted to, you could go and right here after this thing, you could pipe it to JQ, right? You totally could. I have JQ installed, so this should actually just work. Let's go find out. It didn't, so I missed something. Right? I tried to go too far there, but it still kind of runs, right? Oh, did I do that wrong? Let's go right here. Now I'm just playing, okay? That's not important. I can go and review that later. But for the moment, you're here, okay? And it all just works, which is awesome. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could go here and pipe this to JQ as an example. Am I not working anymore? What is going on? Line 1.5. I thought I got rid of you, didn't I? I did. Oh, it's because I still have dry in here. Hold on. Dry. Ha! There it is. Okay, so that's me playing around, last minute thing, but there it is. These are the tools that I use to remove the need for extra apps. So I don't need Postman anymore. I don't need Insomnia or use Bruno. I set up my file as either a script file, which I really, really like, or if it's a really basic setup, then I might just go with a make file, because I can get a lot of good information very quickly using this, right? And then I just get on with it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Did you find it interesting? Would you use this? Have you used this maybe in a different way? I want to hear all of your comments. So hit me up in those comments. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Thanks all.